one of the famous, and I'm sure this is something you've seen, one of the famous eugenic images is that of a tree. It was used as a logo for the Second International Eugenic Congress and then the Third International Eugenic Congress. So we believe that in 1945, we defeated Nazism, and then we cut down the tree, and eugenics was gone by cutting down that eugenic tree. What we didn't realize, at the time, is that what you see with the tree is only the canopy and the trunk, but you don't see the roots. The roots of that tree remained, and they thrived for the past 50 years. And now it's time to cut down the roots of global eugenics. We need to dig deeper into our individual histories, collective histories, dig deeper into our histories to unmask those roots, which are always there, and they get nourishment. They get nourishment from people's xenophobia. They get nourishment from people's sexism. They get nourishment from people's racism. They get nourishment from states and politicians who believe that they can still create a hierarchical society according to which some of us are better and that we are entitled and privileged, and we deserve to get access to education, to health, to political power, and others are not worthy because of the color of their skin, or because they were born in a different part of the world, or because they speak with an accent. So we need to do that forcefully and convincingly, and not as an academic conversation only, but truly as a public debate.
Throughout history, has the female body been used as a tool for propaganda of the eugenistic movement, or maybe the natalist movement?
Of course, it is any idea of reproduction, whether it is biological or cultural, presupposes there is a carrier. There's someone who enables that reproduction to occur. And of course, the centrality of the female body to all of these programs of selective breeding cannot be denied. And it is extremely important that actually we bring forward specific examples and specificities. So it's not just simply to talk generally about sterilization. We actually have to say it out loud and clear. You know, they sterilized women because women were believed to be, you know, unable to think with their own heads, or they were unable to, or they were believed to be inferior to men, or they were believed to be, with loose morals. You know, if you leave a young woman by herself, she won't be able to think with her own head. So she will get drunk, do drugs, you know, fall pregnant, simply denying any responsibility or giving that individual any power. So you basically disempower the female body by, ironically, you may believe that by putting the female body at the center of politics and ideology, whether it is nationalism doesn't exist without bodies, and bodies don't exist unless they are female bodies. The nation cannot continue to exist unless you have reproduction happening. It's the same with the racist arguments about the future of the race. It's the same with arguments about society. What you always have to ensure is that you have enough women having babies. So any policy is about the functionality of reproduction, and women are central to that. But ultimately, you know, you need to actually be very, even more courageous and more specific in saying, well, yes, but it's not just, you know, generally speaking. That's actually extremely tragic and traumatic and irresponsible, and it's an attack of human rights because basically you disempower women in this way because you simply, A, you place on them a responsibility they never asked for. Secondly, by claiming you're acting in the name of society or in the name of the nation or in the name of the race, you are entitled, and you think it is okay and ethical and possible to implement all these policies which target women because you claim that it is for the greater good. So you would claim, for example, that Roma women need to be sterilized for the benefit of the Romanian or the Czech or the Polish or the Hungarian society. You know, you would claim we have to give more money to white Romanian families because, you know, Romanian, so defined Romanians according to race or blood or ethnicity, they don't have enough children. So they need to be given a lot of power and privilege in order to have more children. So Romanian women should be privileged over other types of Romanian women, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, once you created or allowed this conversation to happen and you address the key issue, then what you need to do is actually go after the specifics and point out how it all works, because obviously it works very different in different ways for many different people. You know, eugenics meant many things to many different people. If you are white, privileged, and you send your kids to the best universities and you have the best care in the world, you always believe eugenics is a good thing because it works for you. Eugenics favors your group. If you are disadvantaged, if you are powerless, if you are poor, if you belong to an ethnic minority, or you have a sexual orientation which is not accepted in your society, right? As it happens in many countries around the world, you know, which discriminate against women, discriminate also against sexual minorities. So if all of that, of course, for you, eugenics is the most terrible thing that could happen. And that has to be said, rather than simply keep the conversation about, you know, what an ideal society will look like if eugenicists would have their say. We know that eugenicists had their say. Eugenicists were everywhere, at all forms of government. They were in the liberal governments in Western Europe. They were in the conservative governments into a period. They were in the Nazi government in the 1930s. They were in the governments in Romania until 1945. Everywhere you had important eugenicists shaping educational policies, sanitary policies, educational policies, as I said, social assistance policies, legal system. The entire penal codes were proposed, and many of them survived. They were created in the 1930s, were had the contribution from the eugenicists about the health of the society, the health of the nation, the health of the race, and so on and so forth. So we know that they were given a chance to do that, and we look now at what they did, and actually it's pretty horrific. So I don't think there is any need to still try to deny how successfully and how successful and how relevant and how impactful eugenic was for most of the 20th century. I think this has to be already a part of history textbooks, not of the conversation. History textbooks, including in Romania, they should actually discuss this properly. It should be part of the curriculum. What we need to do now is how we confront the legacies of eugenics. This is the conversation that has to happen. We need to move beyond still having issues, whether it was an important idea or it was marginal. This has been already fully documented. We know everything. People always deny it, of course, because it doesn't look good in some cases to accept that they had a eugenic past. But I think most of us know already that this is an incorrect representation of what happened and how prevalent these ideas were in the interwar period up to 1950s. And then, of course, how they were recreated in the case of Eastern Europe under communism.